handle it when that type of person comes and takes your class. I did a video about this over the weekend, and several people asked me to go into a little more detail about just how I suggest handling that kind of situation. So I think it's no surprise that this is a really common experience for any of us who teach classes, hold space, facilitate, anywhere where there's a public room that people can come into, and you're dealing with different people on different days who are there for different reasons. There is always the possibility that there's going to be, and I described it as that person, right? Just the person who is disruptive, invalidating, who feels the need to come and give you a whole bunch of excessive feedback that's sort of left field from what it is that you're really sharing. The type of person who starts to kind of play games and hook into your psyche a little bit. There's a weird sort of attention seeking and wanting to get under your skin. It's a really interesting thing. And what I was saying in the video that I posted over the weekend is that this is amazing practice, right? It's an amazing opportunity to practice being non-reactive, to practice being self-aware, to practice a kind of empathy that, a compassion for that human being that can drop in underneath whatever the game is that they're trying to get you hooked into, or whatever it does hook into in terms of your own psyche, right? Typically, this kind of person has developed a relational style that is organized around trying to affect people and trying to get a reaction out of people as a way of feeling seen, as a way maybe of feeling cared for, as a way of feeling powerful. And so then if we ask ourselves underneath that strategy, what might be going on, right? What is someone doing if every interaction is an attempt perhaps to feel like they have some power in the situation? Well, probably underneath that they feel very helpless, right? If their every interaction is an attempt to control, maybe they feel out of control. If they're seeking to get under your skin and antagonize you and find your weak spot, maybe that's because they feel incredibly vulnerable in those sorts of ways. And so they're beating you to the punch in a way, right? So the psychology of what happens in our interpersonal interactions, and especially in the unique arena, like not everyone works in a space like this. Like if you teach yoga or if you facilitate any kind of event that people come into, that the public can come into on any given day, and you don't know who's coming, right? That's a unique arena. That's a unique opportunity and challenge, and it requires a unique skill set. So how do you handle it? Well, I think one way of handling it is being interested in psychology and different personality types and different defense systems that people have, different kinds of personality disorders. Like there's a lot of great psychological stuff out there that you can read about this, that you can look up. There are wonderful people doing YouTube videos that'll break all this stuff down beautifully and in ways that can be really, really helpful. Not so as to judge or categorize others, but just so as to have a little bit more of a framework to understand what you're dealing with. Because honestly, every time you enter into a public space with a group of people, and if they're showing up, let's say they're showing up for a yoga class, you're dealing with 5 psyches or 10 psyches or 40 psyches, right? You're dealing with people's inner worlds, even though that's not immediately apparent on the surface. And this is kind of I think a powerful insight about life in general, right? Which is that all human interactions, all human relationships have underneath the immediate surface appearances psyche. They have emotions. They have the background life story of that human being. They have trauma. They have defense systems that are in place for trying not to get hurt. That's just the human condition. So I think there's a very powerful way that the more we embrace what I think of as a fact, that this is the human condition, then the more we can meet those moments and meet those challenges, enter into those situations, have those conversations and those interactions in ways that are grounded and informed by these facts, that we're always dealing with the human psyche. We're always dealing with layers. and that someone may be saying one thing, but you're getting something else from their body language and their facial expression and the way that they're saying it, right, their tone of voice. So I had an interesting experience over the weekend, and I won't go into it because I have no desire to, in any way be hostile or shaming toward the person that I had the interaction with, someone I've never met before. But it just made this this topic really fresh in my mind, and so I shared something about it because that's what I do. And what I as soon as I kind of got a whiff, right? As soon as my spidey sense started tingling, and I was like, oh, this is going to be one of these people that's a little bit tricky to interact with. What was it? Can't tell you. Something about the look in their eyes, something about the way that they immediately started interacting with me as if they knew me, in a very kind of using language that was very familiar and kind of demanding, really wanting to create an instant emotional connection, but more than that, they were wanting to impact me in a certain way where I just felt it coming at me. And so, of course, that's just like one little red flag. I'm like, well, whatever. They seem nice enough. Like, I wonder what that is. And then there's another, and then there's another. And it's like, okay, I'm in a situation here where it really behooves me to be non-reactive, right? So don't say the first thing that comes out of my mouth in response to whatever sort of inappropriate or disruptive thing they're saying or doing. Whatever way they're trying to hook me by giving me like all sorts of unsolicited random feedback that, and being open to feedback I think is really important, but when it's this kind of person, it's something else, right? There's something else going on. And you're just recognizing that I needed to be grounded in myself. I needed to be non-reactive, and whatever buttons they might push, I needed to just put a little post-it note on that and save it for later. Like, that's my personal work. I'm gonna go back and look at that later and see, like, whoa, what was that about for me? What feelings did that bring up that are really just mine, regardless of who they are and what they're doing? And then also, if there's part of their feedback and part of what they're reacting to that is good stuff for me to look at and understand that I can benefit from and grow from, okay, great. Put that off to one side. I'll come back and look at that and think about that later because I'm a conscientious person. But in that moment, get grounded, be non-reactive, stay in touch with my breath, focus my attention on them during the interaction, and just try to be authentically empathic, like I care about what they're saying and who they are, but in this way that doesn't overdo it. So I'm not trying to up the ante on their like emotional intensity, and I'm also not buying into whatever the story is that they're trying to get me hooked into. Much more, I'm listening, I'm taking it in, I'm not reacting to it, I'm saying thank you, and I'm also, from inside of myself, like from my heart, if you like, I'm staying in touch with a warm, friendly compassion for the person who is there behind the stuff that's going on that has all sorts of red flags, lifted for me, right? There are flags. Okay, great. I see the flags. I recognize the flags. I'm not going to be in an interaction or in a conflict with those flags. I recognize them for what they are. So I'm going to sidestep that, express care and concern and respect, and maintain that compassionate warmth through the end of the conversation, and then disengage and walk away. So hopefully that's useful for someone. I'm just sharing with you my sort of free associations on this topic. It's a topic that I know a lot about. I've done a lot of reading and study and exploration and mentorship in the realm of psychology, and especially relational. I think all psychology is really relational, but personality types, trauma, defense systems, that sort of stuff. So yeah, it's something that I'm happy to share with you, and several people asked me to go a little deeper into the topic. So there it is. I hope it's interesting. I hope it's useful.